Okay guys, this new Warlock Prismatic build has to be the most busted build I've ever seen when it comes to getting supers more frequently. Now I'm going to point this out here straight away that you don't have to use Prismatic and you can use any super of your choice, because we will be using the Mantle of Battle Harmony, which allows us to gain super energy on elemental weapon takedowns. And I will go more into this shortly in the video, but this exotic also got buffed, so now it grants between a plus 1.5 to 4.5% super energy depending on the target type killed. And it also has no cooldown now, meaning that you can just run and gun with say a sunshot, melting completely everything and getting that super energy bar filled up more rapidly than ever before. Now when we combine this with the new solar super on the Warlock, we can literally make it rain solar grenades. That is a great source of boss damage, but also very effective at ad clearing. And considering that we'll be getting this super so quickly, if you have a good amount of ads around, it just makes this build really good to use and really fun. There are actually two routes you can go with this build. On one hand, you can go with the new solar aspect, Hellion, that allows you to summon solar mortars that lobs flaming projectiles at distant targets which scorches them. And I'm not gonna lie, this aspect is incredibly fun to use and it's actually pretty good as well. Just watching a bunch of solar balls fly out at enemies is just purely amazing to watch. But on the other hand, you can go with Bleak Watcher to have a ton of stasis turrets that slow and freezes enemies. The only disadvantage to using the mortar one is that, well, becoming Transcendent is going to be a bit harder to achieve because the majority of our attacks are light rather than darkness, so we're hardly going to fill that darkness meter up if at all. But with that said, having these supers so frequently just makes the build so strong that you don't even need to use anything else. And that's not to mention that we will also be getting things like Radiant and Devour permanently to make this build even stronger. It's almost as strong as my sponsor CD Keys. Now are you looking for cheaper games? Then be sure to visit my sponsor CD Keys, where you can buy games up to 90% off and get your hands on some of the best deals of releases this year, like the Final Shape expansion, Elden Ring, and even get Xbox Game Pass cheaper too. As a regular customer myself, I find that CD Keys is the best go-to site when it comes to buying games cheaper and making the most out of my money. In fact, they're so good that they have an excellent rating with over 160,000 reviews on Trustpilot, and with just a few simple clicks, you could be playing your next favourite dream game. Go check them out. Link below. Now before we dive deeper into the video, I just want to quickly mention that if you like this build and are looking to find more top tier builds for Destiny 2 episode 1, then you can find the full playlist of new builds down below, as well as a link to my Mobilix page if you prefer a written guide. But with this build today, we're going to get supers extremely faster than normal by just killing ads with weapons. And when you're using things like a sunshot, killing ads quickly in large groups won't be a problem, so it just helps us rapidly get that solar super faster than ever before. We are using the new solar super that came with the Final Shape, which is the Song of Flame. This is so that we can just spam a bunch of projectiles using our melee grenade, which is pretty strong against everything and does last a stupidly long time as well. You can use this build setup basically on Prismatic or the Dawnblade subclass itself. It doesn't really matter as long as you are matching your killing weapon type with your super. So for me, that's a solar sunshot with a solar super. If you are using say a Nova Bomb, which by the way also got buffed, and I will cover this in a dedicated build in another video, then you will want to run Void weapons with that. And the reason for that is because of our exotic, the Mantle of Battle Harmony, and what this does is allow final blows with weapons matching your equipped super's damage type to grant you super energy. When your super is full, you instead get a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that type. So solar weapons with the solar super, void weapons with Nova Bomb, and so on. And as I mentioned earlier, this exotic did get buffed, so it does now grant more super energy than ever before without a cooldown as well. And if you had a bunch of ads or yellow bar ads, that will give you a ton of super energy. It is pretty busted. Now, a few good weapons that I strongly recommend you pair with this build are firstly the hand cannon from Kingsfall Raid. This is a free weapon so anyone can get this. A Drang sidearm, also a good choice, or the Callus mini tool. And notice how every weapon that I have does have the incandescent perk on them. This is important because that perk is so strong in PvE that it literally explodes everything by scorching them and allowing those scorch stacks to build up to then just clear groups of ad quickly. And when paired with this build or any good dedicated solar build, it will just make it even stronger. But weapons like these that have the incandescent perk on, or basically any perk that can just cause solar explosions, is what you ideally want to go for your solar weapons. But a great exotic to use is obviously going to be the Sunshot, or even a Polaris Lance if you're going in for the longer range, which would be more suitable for GMs. But basically how this build works is you're going to start by using your grenade to kill an enemy to grant Devour, then use your class ability to give you mortars. From there you'll just go around getting rapid solo weapon kills to make and pick up orbs, and using your abilities when you can as well. And basically that's the most easiest and simple way that this build works, because by doing that you'll get a bunch of effects from the orbs like Radiant for an increase to DPS, but also by having Devour constantly you'll be getting faster grenades and health on every kill, making you pretty much unkillable. But by just killing ads, especially yellow bar ads, you'll be getting supers so fast it's kinda crazy. If you have constant ads around all the time, where you're always getting the final blow with solo weapons, you could really be pulling off multiple supers per minute, and then you can just use that super to melt larger packs of enemies as well as bosses. Now, you can use the stasis turrets if you want to. If you do go this route, you'd start by using your ability to get Devour. You can then use your melee or grenade, it doesn't really matter, because by getting kills, you'll get that grenade back quicker to be able to throw down more stasis turrets if you want to. Now bear in mind that your stasis turret can activate Devour for you, so you don't have to use the grenade itself, so just be aware of that if you'd rather only use the grenade for the turrets, but you do have the choice between using those two aspects. You can use the Hellion to get the mortars, or you can use the Bleak Watcher to get stasis turrets. Just be aware that if you use the Hellion aspect, it's unlikely that you're going to ever get Transcendance by yourself, so you will probably rely on kinetic weapon kills or killing debuffed enemies by allies. But for your main primary aspect, you will want to go with Devour, since it's by far one of the best buffs in the game, so make sure to put on the Feed the Void aspect. For your super, make sure you're running the super that's matching your weapon's damage type, so I'd recommend the Solar Super, the Song of Flame, since it's a really good choice for Warlocks right now, and not only that, by using Solar, we'll benefit from other things with this build that we wouldn't otherwise benefit from by using a different super that isn't Solar. For abilities, you want a Vortex Grenade, which will be great for ad clearing and to debuff enemies, which I'll get to soon. The melee doesn't really matter, but I do like the Incinerator Snap one a lot, and then the class ability you can go with whatever you prefer. Since we're using the Facet of Hope Fragment, we will get our class ability back faster because of the elemental buffs, so we should have Devour almost all the time to keep this buff active. Then by using Facet of Dawn, our powered melee hits against targets will make us Radiant. This is just a great way to get a quick on-demand Radiant whenever we want to for that extra DPS. We are going to benefit from the Radiant Orbs in the artifact, so we will get Radiant when picking up orbs as well, so it's just a great way to maintain Radiant more often by having both of those on. We are also going to get Restoration too when picking up orbs because of the Facet of Purpose Fragment, since we are using a Solar Super, so that's also another benefit, and I know with Devour it doesn't really matter too much, but it just helps occasionally if we are low on health and there's an orb lying around somewhere. The last two fragments we have are Facet of Protection for the extra damage resistance, and Facet of Dominance so that we can weaken enemies with our Void Grenades, always great to debuff enemies for extra damage. In the artifact, we just have a few perks benefiting us, so we do have Elemental Siphon to spawn elemental pickups when getting kills with our solar weapons. That will be a Fire Sprite, which will give us grenade energy. Then we just have Shield Crush for increased grenade recharge and damage when radiant, and Transference, which won't really benefit us much since we won't really become Transcendent often. So really the artifact perks here aren't majorly affecting the build, which just means that you can use this build in any season and still get the same result. So it's just a good base build to use all round. As for mods, I'd go with anything that is going to give you faster supers, spawn orbs more often like a Siphon mod, and give you class ability energy for the mortars. But mods again don't really play a major part of this build, so as long as you have a Solar Siphon mod on at least, when using Sunshot, you will spawn a ton of orbs regularly. But either way, a really good build to use right now that a lot of people should use if you want to get faster supers for your solo Warlocks. But if this isn't the build for you, then be sure to check out my playlist down below or my Mobilix page, where you can find a ton of amazing top tier builds to use right now in Destiny 2, the Final Shape. Otherwise guys, thank you for tuning in, and until next time, peace.